Good afternoon, this is Jim Williams with the update on Tropical Storm Karen, located in the Gulf of Mexico, heading towards the northern Gulf Coast. The date is October 4th. And what you're looking at to start out this update video is the tracking map on the front page of HurricaneCity.com. You'll notice the cone of error, the past track, and this map is zoomable. But before we do that, I wanted to show you that our current feature is Gulf Shores, Alabama, right here next to the tracking map. And when you click on that, it takes you to the page with all the localized information from Gulf Shores, Alabama. There's webcams, some pretty cool streaming webcams. You have radars, news, Twitter feeds, everything you would need from the areas that are going to be affected. Now, it's a very difficult call to narrow down a specific city that's going to be affected by Tropical Storm Karen, because the system is forecast to make a hard right turn when it gets near Louisiana and kind of skirt the northern Gulf Coast. There's going to be a lot of areas impacted by this system. I don't want to focus on one particular area. The previous feature was Pensacola, thinking it was going to be hooking a little bit sooner, but now it turns out it's going to hook off to the east a little bit later than originally forecast. So it's basically going to skirt the northern Gulf Coast. I'll get to close-up maps on this in just a minute. But you can get all the localized information from Gulf Shores, Alabama, and the countdown clock has been activated to tell you when sustained tropical storm force winds are going to arrive in the northern Gulf Coast. And that's important because if you're getting your preparations ready, you want to get it done before the tropical storm force winds arrive, which would be sometime on late Saturday going into early Sunday for most of these areas that are under a watch. Alright, as I mentioned before, you can zoom in on these maps at Hurricane City using the plus-minus button there, and when you zoom in, the more information that becomes available to you, such as the watches, the warnings, the best performing models. Now these best performing models that you see here, for example, the red one is usually the best performing model. These are based on a 24-hour data swath of information from the models, figuring out which models have the biggest error going out 24 hours. If you were to use a week's worth of data, you'd have completely different data, different rankings in the models going out a week. But when it's 24 hours, they tend to shift a lot left and right based on 24-hour runs. But right now, the 24-hour best performer is the FIM model, and that's taking it up towards Panama City, Florida eventually. But again, the more you zoom in these maps, the more that becomes available to you. Now, right below the tracking map, there's links to other things such as best performing models, data buoys, sea surface temperatures, everything. This is a really cool tool to use. You can zoom right in on the map and get the sea surface temperatures all over the Atlantic Basin, and the more you zoom in, again, the more information that becomes available. But you can see we're talking temperatures right around 83 degrees where the system is right now. And that's about as warm as it's going to get in this area right here in the lighter shades. And then as you get into the darker areas up in here, you'll notice that the temperatures drop off around 82 degrees. So this is about the warmest water this system is going to be traveling through right now. And here's another interesting link. You can click below the tracking map. These are all the buoys in the Gulf of Mexico. And the more you zoom in on this map, the more buoys that become available and the more data that becomes available. You simply click on the buoy and you get all the wind information, the sea surface temperatures, the pressures, the winds, everything you would need from where the system is headed. And you can see here the water temperature is 82.8 degrees, right near where the system is located right now. And what's interesting is the pressures are not really dropping that much, and what you like to see is really deep falling pressures when it indicates that we have a strengthening system, and the pressures are not really dropping all that much out in front of this. In fact, last time I checked this morning, they were pretty steady, maybe falling slightly this afternoon. Now here's the GFS model, and we have the big battle going on between the GFS and the European model, and you know, these are the two usually most reliable models for tracking what's going to happen in the tropics. And this is going out about 48 to 72 hours range here. We see that the GFS is indicating this is going to come very close to the Plaquemines Parish in Louisiana and then hang a hard right-hand turn and head towards the Big Bend, Florida area as a tropical storm. So that's the thinking from the GFS. Now if we go forward to the Euro model, in 48 hours the Euro has it right on the coast of Louisiana, right near say Morgan City area. And then you go out to 72 hours, it has it skirting right along the coast, and it would be right, you know, right around the current feature area of Gulf Shores, Alabama towards Pensacola in about 72 hours. So the two models are not that far off, although the Euro wants to take it into Louisiana as it makes the turn, whereas the GFS wants to keep it offshore and then have it going basically due east or east-northeast towards the Florida Panhandle or the Big Bend, Florida area. Now here's a reason why this system is struggling so much to gain strength. You know, unlike years past where Katrina was out there, we had a big ridge aloft. Now this is a ridge down here in Central America. Now if this was directly over the top of Karen, you would see a strengthening system, probably a rapidly strengthening system, but the high pressure system is located south of the center of circulation down here. So what that's doing is causing the winds to scream out of from west to east at around 20 to 25 knots, and that's just very unfavorable for development of a tropical system. And now as the system pulls away from this high pressure ridge, gets further north, it's going to get away from some of the higher wind shear. But then what's going to happen is you're going to have dry air and a cold front whipping down, so this is going to have a very short period of time to actually strengthen. As some models indicate, this could strengthen as it heads inland in the northern Gulf Coast. But as we've seen in years past, the dry air is a real battle when these things get near the Gulf Coast, and I just don't really see this thing ramping up that much, maybe to a strong tropical storm, but hurricane status seems unlikely. In fact, the National Hurricane Center has said that in their latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. And here's the FIM model. This has been the best performing model on this system since the beginning, going out 5 days. The FIM has been the best performer, only being off by about 96.8 miles at 5 days. A lot of the other models have been off by about 130, 140 miles. So the FIM model, and this is, by the way, created by the National Hurricane Center. We have a forecaster there that works on this model and puts the information up on the internet. And this system, they show in 72 hours would be just to the southeast of Plaquemines Parish. And then if we go out in time, we go out to Tuesday. This is going all the way out to Tuesday. So the FIM model is indicating this thing is still going to be lingering over the northern Gulf of Mexico going out to Tuesday morning toward the Big Bend area. But I think that's a little bit far-fetched as far as that hard right turn. I think it's going to be a little closer to the coast up here. I still think we're talking Panama City over when this thing finally does make landfall. But this has been the best performer. Now you ask, what's the best performer as far as intensity so far in this system? And that would be the SHIP model. It's only been off by about 8 miles an hour going out for 5 days. A lot of the other models have been off by 20, 25 miles an hour. So the SHIP's model's been pretty dead on. And the SHIP's model is indicating at 60 hours, right around the point of landfall, we're talking about maybe 55 miles an hour at landfall. So the SHIP model is not that aggressive with this system. In fact, most of these early cycle tropical models are taking this on a downward trend as it approaches the northern Gulf Coast. And this is as of the latest model run. Let's take a look at a visible of our system. And you can see the system is rather sheared. We have a low-level exposed center. In fact, I'm going to stop it right here, and you'll see that the center is right out in here, and all this convection is being blown off to the east of the center of circulation, and that just does not bode well for a developing tropical system. You'd like to have the convection wrapping around the center of circulation, and we just do not see that happening. Every time it makes a new burst of convection near the center, it gets blown off, and if you look at that last frame there, right before, well, let me go back one, right there, you'll notice that the system is getting blown apart again. That latest burst of convection right there is being blown off to the northeast of the center of circulation. So the center continues to drift off, and then it's supposed to hang a hard right turn like this. So we'll see what happens with the wind shear. But there's a lot of dry air moving in on this system. Now, if we switch sources, you'll notice on the HERTRAC program here that also, while I have the HERTRAC program, I wanted to mention that the way we come up with the sustained tropical storm force winds affecting the featured city with the countdown clock is based on the yellow circle and the aqua circle. And right now we have the aqua circle with the Gulf Shores, Alabama, approaching at 9 a.m. on the 6th. So that's aqua circle is approaching, and those are sustained tropical storm force winds in on Gulf Shores, Alabama. And these are gust tropical storm force out in here. If we go and put this into motion, And you'll see that the system comes up through Plaquemines Parish, just nipping the southeast tip of Louisiana, hanging a hard right-hand turn, and then moves into Gulf Shores, Pensacola, and moves inland in the southeast, becoming extratropical. Now here's the reason I believe that this is not really going to be a real strong system in the northern Gulf. Again, the wind shear continues because the high pressure center located south of Karen. But here's another factor to consider, and that's this dry air moving in here from the northwest, and that's coming in closer and closer with every run of this satellite image. And it's only going to be a matter of time before all this dry air starts working in. The system's already lopsided with the center over in here and all the convection over here to the right. So this is not going to abate anytime soon with all that dry air encroaching. Now, the only thing that could allow some development to take place would be as the system makes a right-hand turn, it would be moving parallel with the wind shear and might have a chance to regenerate a little bit as it moves in toward the coast. But again, we're talking tidal surge flooding and tropical storm force winds, but I don't think this is going to be a high wind event or anything major to happen here in the northern Gulf Coast. But residents need to be alert, be prepared, have your preparations in case you have a power outage and get any loose objects in from outside. There's going to be some strong gusty winds, but we're not talking sustained hurricane force winds. At least at this point, it looks like that's not going to happen. All right, that's it for now. I'll be back with another update if there's any significant changes. Again, that featured city may shift to the left or to the right depending on the track. It's very uncertain. Everybody in the northern Gulf Coast needs to pay very close attention to the future of Tropical Storm Karen. That's it for now. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.